Hello, I'm Amelia Newbury. I'm here with George Eastwood. In a moment, George will introduce himself, tell us a little about the personal journey that brought him here, tell us a little about what he's working on, and how the bullpen can help him. Welcome, George.
Hi, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
George, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. So, my name is George Eastwood, board chair at the Emily Whitehead Foundation. Been in this role for about 2.5 years, coming over from the for profit world, looking to bring the patient voice as early and often into the process of drug development as we can.
Thank you. And tell us a little about the personal journey that brought you here today.
Sure. Yeah. I think fascinating part about all of us is how we end up where we are. For me, it started in pharmacy school. And I like to say that I've spent something like 43 years figuring out what I don't want to do. So I did most of a PharmD program prior to getting into the business side of science. My ultimate degree was in toxicology, but ended up in the life science tool space. Very early, just focused on animal research and other pieces. But around 2010, ended up reading some papers around the future of cell therapy and ended up joining Lonza, one of the bigger and only players in the space. And really that catapulted the journey into the cell and gene space and advanced therapy space. I joined a for-profit blood bank called HemaCare in 2012 with a commitment to driving cell therapies forward. And we were quickly thrust into the middle of development of CAR T therapies at Kite and Novartis, supplying human blood cells and clinical cells for allogeneic cell therapy. And in the innovative, booming market that it was all hands on deck and rapid growth, we got to be in front of nearly every startup cell therapy company, looking at their cell-based needs, research products, clinical products, whatever it was, and without much time to think. So in doing that for 6 years, we grew the company from about 0 to 30 million in revenue, pivoted from just being a transfusion-based blood bank to being the first really strategic bioresearch cell supplier to cell therapy. And along that journey ties into where I am today. Ended up hearing a talk from Tom Whitehead, father of Emily, the first pediatric CAR T patient treated at Penn. I like to say that I immediately teared up and cried in public for the first time in 30-something years, and introduced myself to Tom after that talk and said, what can we do to help? And in our companies, we were doing various things and supplying to research, but starting in healthcare on the pharmacy side, my goal was always to get closer and closer to the patient and to see that impact. So over the years, co-founded some companies, was involved in some acquisitions in the blood center space for a private equity-backed company. But 2.5 years ago, stepped away from a MIT startup named Kitepen that I was at and called Tom and said, what can I do to help for real? I'm not going to be working, but I need to work on something. Joined the board a month later, became board chair 3 months later. Now, 2.5 years later, we're redirecting our strategy to support patients on their advanced therapy journey and putting all those pieces together to bring the patient closer to all the stories that everyone's telling here at the Bullpen on the medical and healthcare side.
That's amazing. It's incredibly heartwarming and very interesting as well. That's an incredible journey. Thank you for sharing it.
Sure.
Tell us more about what you're working on today. What's happening in the exciting and new spaces that you're exploring?
Yeah, and I think it is a culmination of the connection of everything. In advanced therapies and cell-based therapies, a large part of that journey is the journey of the product that I was involved in my for-profit life. And now that we've seen advancements in commercialization, we have to deliver them to more patients. So over the last couple of years at the foundation, we've strategically built out the board, looking to move away from just funding research, as we've seen a big boon in research funding, but actually delivering some of these commercialized medicines in a more meaningful way. So it's looking at the patient and caregiver journey that is unique to advanced therapies in childhood disease and what support is needed prior to diagnosis, after diagnosis, and even post-treatment on the mental health side, while also advocating for all patients that can receive an advanced therapy. Those journeys are so unique compared to others from previous modalities that building out those resource supports and advocating for the innovation needed to keep these first-in-human trials going and getting the how of that together is where we're at now, and just increasing that impact that the Emily Whitehead Foundation has had over the last 8 or 9 years.
It's remarkable impact as well. Those are all incredibly impressive goals. Wonderful. How can the Bullpen help you? How can we help you move those forward? How can this audience help you?
Yeah. I think for everyone, it's how early can we integrate the patient into the development of our medical devices, our therapies, any AI tools. It really is that whole journey. And at JP Morgan, we were part of the bullpen and brought in some rare disease patients. And the thing that is most resounding, we really don't know what a patient goes through till we spend a day with them in their world. I think it was Justin West, KCN1, rare disease father, that said it best. He invited the pharma company and spend 6 hours with me to really see what it's like with this rare disease and really understand what we go through, not just from curing the disease, but the treatment that's needed. And I think just bringing that patient voice to everything we do and incorporating it earlier in the process always helps, especially when we look to commercialize drugs. There are many stakeholders involved, and the US healthcare system and global healthcare system is so difficult. But if we start with the patient in mind, how can we develop them hand in hand, and how can we integrate those stories in earlier? So I'd say everyone from the bullpen, members, attendees, just connecting with patients for the diseases that you're treating, integrating them in and making them a part of the story along the way, and supporting the Emily Whitehead Foundation overall. Specifically, our gala in September on the 27th is going to celebrate about 25 CAR T and rare disease families that have had transformative or curative treatments.
Amazing.
And bring that ecosystem together to celebrate the hope that is beyond Emily. So it's a new era of hope beyond just Emily's story. We've now treated 34,000 people with CAR Ts, but unfortunately that's only about 10 to 20% of the addressable population, despite having approved therapies on the market for 6 or 7 years. So getting everyone in a room together, even under at a fun gala, supporting it and being moved by those patient stories that are in that room. It's the reason why I'm here at the foundation now. 7 years ago, I went to the Bleed Ball, and sitting here 7 years later, helping to take it to the next level with the amazing team at the foundation.
Well, you certainly have my support.
Thank you so much.
Keeping the patients front and center is, of course, the most important part of the science that we're all doing. Thank you for being here with us today and for sharing your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me.